I'm Daniel Schwarzman from Investing.com. Today I am joined by famous chess legend and global thinker Garry Kasparov. Mr. Kasparov, how are you doing today?
Doing fine. Thank you for inviting me.
So we're going to talk today eventually about you have a new NFT drop coming out. So I think that's the proximate thing that we're going to talk about. But I wanted to first just start generally. Why crypto? Why are you interested in crypto right now? What brought you to this?
From my early days, I had great interest in technology. So I grew up in the Soviet Union, and you can imagine technology was not the strongest suit of the communist regime. And I can recall seeing the first computer all the way back in 1983 in London at the semi-final match against Viktor Korchnoi that was sponsored by the company. I wonder if you can recall the name, Acorn Computers.
Acorn is before my time, I think.
Yes, tough. So, and I was fascinated because I asked them to give me one. So I brought it back to the Soviet Union, to my native city where I was born and raised, city of Baku, capital of Azerbaijan. It was the fourth largest city in the Soviet Union after Moscow, Leningrad, and Kiev. Over 1 million people. I think I was probably the only one who had a computer. It was a fairly primitive computer. We used it for the games. Yeah, I remember some of them fondly, like the Hopper. Yeah, so that's the very primitive games. And in 1985, I spoke to my friends in Germany. So it was just thinking at how we can use machines to improve the quality of chess preparation. Yeah, just for the database. And it's a whole project of ChessBase that is now the most popular chess program in the world that used by hundreds of thousands of chess players. Started all the way back in 85, 86. And the first ChessBase was written, now you probably recognize the name, Atari 286.
Atari, I recognize. Yes.
You recognize it. So, and I had a 1-year contract with Atari, and I received computers, 53 computers that I donated to a first computer club in the Soviet Union. Actually, that was not just a children's club. It had some, future experts. And I can say that there are many great things came out of this club, and they even were part of they designed the first hand recognition program, and they did it for Newton. It's all a failed project, but still there's something happened there. So my interest was always there, and I also can recall proudly that I was the first chess player who used a laptop. Though I'm not sure if you can qualify the laptop because it was Compact 486. Okay. I got it in 1988. Okay. It was 5 kilos, $5,000, and it had an enormous amount of memory, hard disk. 20 megabytes. Wow. So by that time, 20, and you can extend it to 20 more megabytes. So I was in possession of 40 megabytes of memory, and everybody was jealous because it was in '88. It was sensational, yeah. And I always looked for machines as an important helping hand, and I try to move forward, using machines to analyze games when chess engines were available. My brilliant victory against Vishy Anand, Game 10 World Championship match in New York, decisive game that crushed Vishy's resilience. It was a result of using machine to check. It's more like a calculator. I found a great idea, but I used machine to check. So how it works. And then, of course, I played Deep Blue twice, won the first one, lost the second one. I always wanted to be at the cutting edge. So that's why I apologize for the long answer, but I think it's important to actually explain why I'm doing things like NFTs now. Because I thought that, it's making a difference. That was always my motto in chess. And I thought, how about, making difference elsewhere? So it's just whatever I can. And since I left chess, I had several books, and one of them, the last one, non-chess book, was Deep Thinking, Where Machine Intelligence Ends and Human Creativity Begins. It's about my personal experience with machines, but also generally about humans and computers. So how we communicate, how the rise of machines affects our lives. And of course, taking into account the whole story that I try to squeeze in 5 minutes. So you're not surprised that I look at the crypto and NFT as one of the byproducts of crypto to find out what is all about. So and I also have to say that in the world of crypto, so it was another entry for me, because since 2012 I'm a chair of Human Rights Foundation. The first one was Václav Havel, my great hero. So, and when he passed away, so they asked me to chair the organization. And our signature event is called Oslo Freedom Forum. This is the biggest gathering of dissidents and human rights activists from around the world, from North Korea to Venezuela, from Belarus to Zimbabwe. So you find the most amazing people with great stories. It's almost first-hand story. And our organization has been very active helping them, protecting their computers, bringing some expertise, and also helping them with funding. And guess what kind of funding you use in countries like Venezuela? So we had few really, it's early experts in this industry. So that's why I have to confess that I was not ready myself to jump in, but I knew about it at a very early stage. And with more information I could gather, my interest rose, and then I just saw the NFTs, appearing on the horizon, and I wasn't confident, because I just thought that I needed another push, and also I wanted to do something fairly unique. Because there's so many NFTs there, there's so many coins, how many thousands of coins that are available. And so I wanted to make my entry with something of significance. That's few things happened. First, I saw people who founded OneKind. That's the onekind.com. And the second one that's also pushed me in this direction is the last year I lost my mother. She succumbed to COVID on Christmas Day, and I thought I had to do something just also to put my life, just in perspective, and also to reflect her influence in my life. So this is sometimes tragic losses, this inspired to move forward. She was always resilient to an idea of writing a memoirs, because it's her view as, come on, it's to my request or others, you can't write everything. And if you don't write everything, you are lying. So she was and she kept postponing it and never happened. So I looked at, I asked my relatives to look at her archive, which is in Moscow, because she lived in Moscow. And I decided to put, this unique collection. Because it's, as I said, in NFTs, you have many NFTs. And in chess now, you also have NFTs, but this is not, it's not the same quality, and it doesn't have a story behind it. So it's the one NFT or another one. I thought about creating, just like the full life story. So the most important events in my life, both personal and professional, and to create just a lineup. There are 31 NFTs. There's 10 for each segment, starting with my, just these early years, then champion, legacy. One is just unique just for me, and then there will be one special. It's a family one just for Christmas drop. So that's just for my mother. So that's the whole collection, and it's each NFT has a story behind it. It's a video message. And they had physical items to back it. So one NFT is Game 24 World Championship match 1985. I became world champion November 9. The score sheet. People say, "Oh, we sell extremely rare items." This is not extremely rare. This is the only one signed by my corpus. So this is NFT, and I think that it may set up the new standards in the industry, because I believe in the future of crypto. I believe it's the way that we are moving forward. Our life becomes more and more digital. So it's very natural that the means to support the life should become digital as well. That's the philosophy of life. And for those who say, yes, but Bitcoin is volatile and there's so many coins, they just, it's a full of scam. Yes, Yeah, this is like every new business. Yeah, so big deal. So this is, yeah, you have few standards like Bitcoin, which is, I always compare to online gold. Yes, you have ETH and other related currencies there. But it's when you have new industries, when you have new breakthrough ideas, there's so much scam. 99.9% goes away. So you have .com crash, but it didn't mean that internet was wrong. So this is it. So I think that this is the future, and I would say I will have very bullish projections long term, because it could be it's a very bumpy road, but I think people now only getting just slowly getting to the point where they recognize that the digital future, the digital future of the globalization means also digital currency to become inseparable part of this new world.
So you just sort of laid out 99.9% could be in the history's garbage bin in the future, and 0.01% will remain. What do you think it is about, like, as you observe crypto, you kind of gave your take of your bullishness, but like, what do you think is going to stick? What do you think is going to last? Or why does that, because it's the volatility. You mentioned quite a few reasons to be skeptical. So what gets you, what attracts you here? And then we can talk about the NFTs too, but like, what attracts you beyond the digital currency aspect of it?
Now, Bitcoin will stay. That's no doubt. So this is the ETH. Yeah, it's a bit expensive. It's a bit more complicated. It's slower, but there's so many, related products there. So I wouldn't bet against it. Though I'm less bullish on this than on Bitcoin. And then you have thousands of coins. That's, again, you can take a chance, but that's, most likely it's 99.9%. So that's but again, you can take a chance. You never know. So that's the beauty of called venture capital. Yes, you can take an adventure. Yes. Now, the reason I believe, it's inevitable is it's because what is a currency? Every fiat currency, does exist because people have confidence in the systems behind it. And if we go back in history, just in history timeline, early days, money, the paper money is just it's fairly new concept. So I think it's the beginning of 1800s. So we're talking about 3 centuries. So it's a very short period of time. So before, it was always about money backed by these pieces. So gold, silver, whatever. And even before that, it was about anything that was recognized in the society as the valid, as a valid element of that valid system of payment. So right now we live in a world, where just forget species. I mean, this with so much money, trillions of dollars. By the way, when people say billion and trillion, I think they just don't recognize what it is. And I have been struggling how to find a way to actually to tell people that these numbers are insane. And I think I found the test, quickly, 1 billion seconds. How long is that?
300 years.
No, it's 31.9.
Okay.
Still, nearly 32 years. 1 trillion is 32,000 years. The moment you tell people that 1 billion seconds is nearly half of the human life, so they say, I 1 trillion. It just it goes back to the ice period. So with so much money, there's no way to back it up. We have it's like a black hole. So we have the total, when you look at the derivatives and all this, debts, that interwoven debts, they are probably it's in now quadrillions. Am I correct with a number? So you're talking about 20, 30 times world global GDP. There's no way you can offset it, because it's the whole system now is it's interdependent. So you cannot take back debt, because in many payments, in many papers, valuable papers, they are all connected. That's the great financial engineering. So you take good debt and bad debt, put it together. Now you create a paper. So how we can get out of that? I mean, I make money, but I don't want the government, just to devalue my money by printing a few trillions. So I think that psychologically more and more people are moving to math, to science. And what is there? Bitcoin. I know exactly how many Bitcoins are available. I know exactly, this is what happens with this algorithm. And no government in the world can actually interfere. So I think there's the growing demand to protect our savings from government abuse. And this is not China or Russia. We're talking about democratic governments, especially American, that are so I'm looking for a diplomatic word. They're not caring about our well-being because they think about concepts. But at the end of the day, at the end of each decision, you have an individual, and I'm not happy with all of a sudden my savings, losing its value because they solve global problems or create more bureaucracy.
So that's interesting because you're obviously, you've mentioned it a couple of times, a notable political voice. You speak out a lot, and I'm curious. Crypto, I think, still has a little bit of your Bitcoin is certainly more accepted, but there's still a bit of, what is this really used for? And also, most recently, I know she's a hot, easy to poke at name, but Hillary Clinton, I think, was the most recent notable name to say this is a threat to essentially fiat currencies, to centralized governments. I know our audience is global, and we have a lot of readers in countries that are struggling with their own currency. So I know the trade-offs. You mentioned Venezuela as an example of this sort of country, but how do you think about the political aspect? Because it's hard to divorce crypto from a political aspect. Like, how do you think in terms of its role in our geopolitical landscape?
Yeah, you cannot insulate yourself from the political complications in the world. And whatever happens, in a free world, elections and campaigns and promises and debates, or what happens in the unfree world, like, dictators deciding now it's like, time to ban it, like in China, Xi Jinping. We want, digital yuan to dominate the world, so we're too powerful to do that. Or in Russia, when they try to control this process because it's all powerful KGB with thousand eyes wants to know exactly what happens, in your bed and in your wallet. So, but this again, that all adds to my previous argument. It's the digital world, the globalized world, will offer more opportunities for individuals. It means decentralization, and I think it's at the end of the day, it's about our confidence. If you have enough people in the world saying, "Sorry, we need to move elsewhere," that's going to happen. Dollar is weak. The only reason dollar is a reserve currency is because other currencies are worse. So it's all about relative. It's not that dollar is as strong. It's not 1944, for God's sake. This is 2021. America is not the same dominant force as it used to be at the end of the World War II. Yeah. So it's the America can fund its social programs. This is the government by adding debt because dollar is still dominant, but its dominance, it's guaranteed only by the weakness of others. I think that's long term, and I'm not a financial expert. It's more like a philosophical view. I think in the next 10 years, it's likely that dollar will be replaced by the basket of cryptos. It's this, look, it's about history. I read enough history books to see the trends. I'm analyzing the trends, and I think that there will be growing demand for individual protection, and decentralization becomes the buzzword. Yes, people want to make sure that we control our lives.
Do you? Well, let's maybe that'll get too deep in that direction. So with NFT specifically being sort of, they've been around for a few years, but they really rose to prominence in 2021. Is there, and it sounds like what you're doing is tying it to physical objects. It's really another way of sharing memorabilia. But it also, there is still a sense in the air of NFTs being somewhat fad-like. So how do you think about the possibility of this just being the latest thing and NFTs specifically not, like, how are you looking at it as somebody newer to this area in crypto?
Look, again, it's another philosophical debate about the concept of ownership. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, there is a demand and there is an offer. So if people are willing to buy, a copy of an art, so it's okay with slight modifications. Yeah, there's this, and pay X dollars, X $1,000, and others willing to actually to buy it on the secondary market. They know better, so it's the wisdom of the crowd. I think that it's what I'm trying to do, and to establish this a new segment which is unique. So I think that will have, it's like the niche, but it's a top niche of the market. So it's unique. It has historical relevance. It's backed by the physical artifacts or personal stories. I think there will be great demand for that. Yeah, I'm taking a risk because I'm pioneering that, but I used to take this risk, but I think this is what will happen. It's this, when I say Bitcoin is online gold, is this, and you don't have to move it. You don't have to store it. It's again, why was gold? Because that's what people believed. It's valuable, and it's just, and it also stays. This thing stays. Things have value as long as we believe they have value, and now it's when everything is digital. We need to own things, quote unquote, valuable things, digitally, and that's why I think again, NFT market same as the other cryptos. In 99% will basically, just the value could, will evaporate. But eventually we have millions of NFTs, and some of them, will create. This is the market that will be a solid secondary market. Because it will become, it's part of our life. So I own this one, I own this one. And you can see more and more businesses are moving. NBA pioneered that. Though I think this is the way they did it. I think it's wrong because they do it, in-house. I think that's wrong. Doing it in-house contradicts the whole idea, because it should be, and then if you want to cash in, you have to clear, again, you need clearance of the house. That's not what I want. We want something. It's like I use the word open sea, right? Not to promote platform, which is but it's, let's say, open ocean. Yes. So it's very important that you do not depend on someone who is just going to pull the plug of this. So I think the future is it's loosely regulated. Still not regulation, loosely regulated market where people can actually exchange the NFTs as valuables.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. So I'd love to ask you a couple questions about AI and artificial intelligence to wrap up, because you alluded to it. I actually, the common person probably knows the story from Deep Blue on, but you were saying essentially you were integrating computers into your chess training even from a decade earlier. I'm curious, you're known for the Kasparov principle, which is essentially that humans plus machines plus superior processes will beat just humans or just machines. Where do you see that? AI is much wider, I think, than we're aware of, but where do you see that being applied in the world? Like, where do you see, as somebody who's been following this for so long, where do you see AI, the most interesting applications of AI these days, or what do you see as that principle in action?
Look, first of all, I have to say that, I'm always taking my stand against the army of doomsayers that predicting the end of humanity, because you have all these Terminators, Matrix, and all God knows what, sweeping us away. Machines made us stronger in the past, made us faster. Intelligent machines will make us smarter. I believe it's about promotion, not about elimination. So, but we have to know how to use it effectively. And the idea of the Kasparov principle is that it's when we look at every problem, so machine will do most of the work. And we have to recognize that we belong to the last few decimal places. So what? It says it doesn't hurt my pride, so machine knows many things better, but I can make my unique human contribution because I know what matters most. That's the human advantage. As long as we recognize that we have creativity, and this creativity basically could be boosted by machines. The problem is, so much of the modern world now is based on the jobs that do what work. It's 4 or 5 years ago, McKinsey did a report on US job market, and they found out that looking at the working time, 96% of the working time in America requires only medium human creativity. That's 4%. It's amazing. It's only 4%. So this is just what about us? Doing something the opposite. So this is I say this it's these 96% of jobs, I would call them zombie jobs. They're just dead. They just don't move yet. That's just so for so many years we complimented people say, oh, he or she works like a machine. Now that's a curse. And I think that now it's time for us to understand that it's for each specific problem we will have a machine, and the trick or the art will be for us to understand what this machine is missing for this problem. No matter how powerful AI is, so there's still limitations for machines. Machine will dominate any closed system. You create a closed framework, any game. Chess, Go, Shogi, Texas Hold'em, Poker, Dota, StarCraft. The moment you do that, bingo, that machine will do a better job. But machines, and I see not a shred of evidence, machines cannot transfer data from one closed system to another closed system. If you train a computer playing one StarCraft map, and then you want to use this knowledge for another StarCraft map with a similar characters, you have to start from scratch, unless you have a human who can actually help us to transfer the knowledge. So it's a challenge, but so it's as everything in our life is about trade-offs. I don't want to sound callous because I always joke that I was the first human being who had his job threatened by a computer. Yeah. So look, it's you cannot beat them, join them. So I see so many opportunities for us to advance, start game of chess or anything we do if we recognize our shortcomings, but also our indispensable advantages and our uniqueness in these relations. I'm an optimist, and I think that the future can be really bright because we can realize our wildest dreams. And by the way, machines cannot dream even in sleeping mode.
Fair enough. Not to always try to pose a sort of negative question, but I'm curious. You just mentioned this closed systems, and one thing I think about with AI is that you've heard the saying that data is the new oil, and when you think of the companies that have the most data and the most power, you're talking about Google, you're talking about Amazon, you're talking about Microsoft, just these giants that are just. And it seems like with AI, it makes it all the harder for anybody else to catch up to them because they just start with all that data. And I'm curious how you think about that just from as people, not setting aside investing stories or anything else. As people, are there risks to this sort of centralization among companies? Are there risks to the Facebooks of the world dominating AI development far beyond even what governments can do? Like, how do you see that?
Look, for the last 5 years, I've been working with Avast Software as a security ambassador. So I wrote dozens of essays on privacy and security. So we could probably run another interview. If you're interested at one point, I'm more than happy to spend a good hour with you giving this information. But you can look at my essays on these topics, on my social media or Avast blog. I just don't want to squeeze it in a few minutes now remaining for this interview. Again, happy to do another one just specifically on that because it's so important. The simple message is, if you generate data, somebody will collect it. That's something that people just don't recognize. There's no way you can avoid, your data being collected because it's somewhere there. So now the question is, what happens with this data? And you talked about Google and Facebook. That's one story. But don't forget, you have undemocratic countries. where the data is being collected without any GDPR offering you some level of protection. And you're right. It's just the data isn't oil. It's a fuel. I would say it's fuel, but you still need a good engine. So that's the problem now for many corporations in America and Europe. It's this: they don't have the same access to data, raw data, as Chinese companies. So that's why I think the GDPR, with all the benefits it offers, it also created obstacles for the growth of the AI industries in the free world, because it puts them in a very disadvantageous position. So as for the Googles and Facebooks of this world, I have been very critical of them. I'm not sure that simply doing what Americans did with Standard Oil 110 years ago would do the trick. But this is something that we should consider. I think one of the problems, and again I refer to my articles, is there's a triangle, as I put it in. You have government, you have big tech, you have the public, and we're all connected. And I think the relations with this triangle are so complex. And unfortunately, with all this big talk, I think the public is yet to understand what we demand. Yeah, it's fine. Talk, we need more security. But working with Avast, I know that the most popular password is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the second one is 4, 1, 2, 9. Thank you very much. So this is, if you don't follow the elemental rules, so what do you expect? This is it's somebody else, your sugar daddy, to work for you. So it's a big story, and again, it's all about trade-offs. It's this. Unfortunately, public is much less concerned practically about these issues than you hear. It's about noises. So I think it requires a serious debate. We've yet to actually enter this phase.
Great. We'll have to save the date for another conversation, because
yeah, absolutely. So be my guest.
My last question for you is: are you an investor in crypto? Are you in your personal?
Yeah, I put my money where my mouth is.
Okay, very good. So you've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, you've got all the biggies, I imagine.
Yeah, and I expect it's a good growth in this account after the sales.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Garry. I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
This was fun. Bye bye.